Disappointing first half, to say the least, right there by the Tigers. Not what we wanted, but what I do like is we're getting back into it. Nussmeier led a drive right there to get us within striking distance. We botched the PAT attempt, and so it's an 8 point game right now. Um, what what I was not happy with at the beginning of that game was the intensity. Um, we had zero sense of urgency. It was like it looked like the Nichols game again. When you're going up against an SEC opponent and you come out of that tunnel and there's no enthusiasm, there's no sense of urgency. I felt like we got out coached, we got out schemed, we got outplayed. When you turn on and when you think about some of the great LSU football teams and what they look like, what they represent, what I saw in that first half of that game, or the majority of that first half, wasn't anything close to what we're used to seeing. We were on our heels, coaching wise, with schematically how we were calling plays on offense. They had their foot on the gas, South Carolina's defense, and they were coming after us. We didn't do anything schematically with our tight ends, with our backs. We just lined up and we went out and played. And when you don't move on offense, which we finally got to in the fourth series of the game, we went to some motions with Mason Taylor to make them show their hand. If you just line up, and that's what we were doing, we were just going line up. They had their foot on the gas, and they were coming after us, and we had no way to respond. So to allow them, to get them, to force them to show their hand, we started with some motions and some shifts. And to be fair, when you go into a hostile environment, which we knew going into that game that it was going to be a hostile environment, you got to work with under the silent count, the silent cadence. And I know most of the times when I've been involved in game plans, when you knew you were going to have to use the silent count, you took out a lot of shifts and a lot of motions because you didn't want the procedural, the pre-snap penalties that come along with it. But it got to a point in that first half where they were bringing five, and we went empty one time. They were bringing five. I'm sorry. We had the back end. He was to the left of Nussmeier. They brought five, had the linebacker as an add-on. Once he saw that our back was going to chip, he added on. So we had the running back and Dillinger, the left guard, on a defensive tackle, and the linebacker coming scot-free. The possession before, we went empty, and they brought more than we can handle. We had the back coming across the formation. They showed blitz to the right side, and then they brought it from the right side. They brought more than we could block, but you got to have a hot. But our back was still on the wrong guy. So we weren't on the same page early. But it got to where, and I think, from time to time, coaching staffs, and Carolina did it, they took the aggressive play calling out, and they kind of played that prevent. And when they stopped blitzing, that's when LSU was finally able to put some drives together. We got the running game going, had a really nice run by the young running back who looks like he's going to be a force for the Tigers. Enough of what I have to say. I think I like where the Tigers are with Carolina's quarterback possibly being injured there in that first half. At the end of it, that's going to change how they call things on offense. But we gotta go get it. My co-host, I should have said that at the beginning. My co-host is sick. He's under the weather, so we fired him this week. Production costs to go down. All right, I'm gonna go to some questions on our live here. Riley McClure, you watching, babe, over in Lake Charles? What's up, Eric Duvall? Let's see what you got. Why is the O-line having such a tough time in the first quarter? Eric, a lot of what I talked about, that crowd noise, and people can talk about it. It's hard. It's hard to operate. You gotta be able to focus. Sometimes when that crowd gets loud, everything seems to be happening so fast, and you got to try to tune it out, and you got to it's hard to silence it in your head, but you have to slow everything down And I think that's what South Carolina was doing. They were attacking. They were coming so fast that, we were throwing all the little details out the window. And I think, a lot of times you put things on the offensive line, but like I talked about, the first pressure, the first sack we had Mason Taylor, who's a tight end, blocking one of their best pass rushers, and he gave up a sack or he gave up a hit. And a lot of times people say it's O-line. You can't leave. No, Mason Taylor's got to block that defensive end sometimes. But that point, that crucial time in that game, you can't leave a tight end who's not a pass blocker in blocking one of their best defensive ends. And we did that, and everybody automatically assumes it's the offensive line's fault. I fought that battle forever. Let me see. Let me scroll down some more questions. Heidi, you got any? I'm on Facebook now. But what do we want to see here from? I want to go back to a big play in that game. They were driving. It was Carolina's third possession. They're driving down the field. They try to throw a corner in the back of the end zone, and Stamps had great coverage. He knocked that ball away and forced them to kick a field goal. That was big at that point in the game. What's your other question you got? All right, here we go. Got another question. Let's see. All right, I'm not seeing it, babe. Okay, yeah, there's Brett Massengill asking why can't we pick up blitzes. Brett, like I talked about earlier, we're not on the same page. The running backs and really South Carolina's not disguising. They're disguising a little bit. One time they made it look like they were coming from the right side and they brought the blitz from the back side. But you know who their rushers are going to be. You got to slow it down and simplify it, and we started to do that. But when you start to get a running game going, that helps. That puts South Carolina on their heels, and we finally got that going when it took us to our fourth drive to finally get some kind of rhythm. Jimbo Walker, how about Gentry Stevens getting married today? I'm gonna explain that for you, Gentry. He's from Texas. Everybody who is from Louisiana knows that you do not schedule a wedding on when it's time for the Tigers to play. But I am gonna blame that on Milazzo because Milazzo knew better than that. So the second half, we're down 8. The Broncos. She's holding her hand back up here, messing me up. What you got? Casey McKenzie, we're gonna throw him out there. He finally tuned in. Why did South Carolina quit being aggressive defensively? If you would have listened, been tuned in earlier, I've already went over that point. So you can watch it back. Give us another view and go watch it back. But we're gonna get the ball back. We're down 8 to go into this half. You can see Coach Kelly turn red, purple, and blue on that sideline, cursing coaches out because there were some things that we did schematically that just wasn't right, and we got to put our guys in better situations. But at the same time, guys that put on that gold helmet and that white jersey, there's a level that you have to live up to, and it just looked like, it didn't look like, it was truth. Carolina came in that first half or for a quarter and a half, and they were playing faster. They were playing harder. They were playing more physical than the LSU Tigers, and that can't happen. When you're playing an SEC game, you can't get out physical and you can't get outplayed. And it looked like they had more heart. They had more want to. But I think our Tigers are starting to respond. We got to get some stops on defense. They're going up and down the field on us in the running game, the passing game. Our gap responsibility has to be better. We have to get off blocks. I know we're playing some young guys on that D-line, but we can't be happy with getting blocked. There's been a couple times where holes have been created, and guys, if you can just try to fight to get off of blocks and get a piece of a guy, you're going to allow people to get there and rally to make the tackle. I mean, you're going to hear it. Everybody's talking about, she's asking about Kelly if he should be fired. He's not going to get fired, y'all. He's making way too much money, but at some point, and I hate getting on coaches, but at some point, as the guy getting paid all the money, like we just talked about, that is running this organization, LSU football, when everything when it's not going good, all the eyes go back to the guy that's making all the money. He's the one that's responsible for his program. And when guys consistently aren't ready, doesn't look like they have the energy. And I watched the whole money game deal last night. This is not college football of old. It's never going to be that. The passion of guys that grow up in this state, that grow up watching this program, wanting to play for this program, it's not at the same level. You got guys now, which I understand one side of it, that are worried about the money that they're making. And if that was your son, you would be excited for the opportunities that NIL present, but at the same time, for this program, you're getting paid NIL money because you can play football. And we have to make sure that we're putting the right emphasis on the game of football that's allowing you to make these different deals off the field. And that's where your focus should be. And it's hard for college athletes to learn and to manage all this. But going back to Coach Kelly, he's the guy that's got to get these guys on the same page and get them ready to go. Okay, we got a few more questions on Facebook. I'm going to try to find them here and scroll through them. Can we get, Eric's asking again, can we get Perkins after the quarterback more? I agree with you, Eric. You look and you hear the announcers, they started talking on about Perkins, and then he shows up. Right now, he's just, we're not using him like we saw him when he first showed up on the scene, being that edge rusher, getting after the quarterbacks in third down situations. And maybe that's not who he is anymore. Maybe we need to accept the reality that this coaching staff and for the future of Harold Perkins, that they see him projecting at the next level to play that linebacker spot. And maybe that's where they want him to get reps. Maybe he's not that guy anymore. But I'll tell you this, number 4 for us, every time I see it, I get confused when they change all these numbers. But 4 on the defensive line is having a hell of a game for us. He's been all over the field at that defensive end spot, causing pressures, getting back there around the quarterback. Maybe it's the jersey number, Eric. Maybe we need to put Perkins back at number 4. All right, y'all getting into too many politics, Massengale. I can't answer that. That's all I'm gonna talk about, the coaching. But I want to see the guys come out and respond. We got to go win this game right here, and how we do that is we go get points on this first drive. I don't care. You'd like to take the ball and go down and get 7, but we need some kind of points on this first drive. We need to come away with 3. If we can come with 7, it'll be interesting. Does our staff go and chase that point that we missed early? I think normally they say you don't chase them points till later on in the game, but we need to go give us an opportunity to go get back in this ball game. And I think if we go get back in it, get within a point here, then we give our defense a little bit more hope, and we take that crowd out of the game a little bit, put that defensive coordinator from South Carolina back on his heels, and I think we're going to like where we're at. But it boils down to going to get stops on defense, putting some drives together, keeping Nussmeier clean and getting some resemblance of a running game. Heidi, anything else from any of the other platforms before we go out? All right, that's it, y'all. Hopefully the Tigers will put together a better performance here the second half. Let's go see what we can get done. Y'all come check us out. I'll let you know if we're going to be doing a post-game to talk about how this game ended up. Tigers, let's go get it done, baby. Snap back, we out.